Welcome to Survivor Scale, the show where we break down all of horror's greatest characters to find out who has the skills, experience, and mentality to survive any situation. I'm H2 Mass, and today I'm breaking down every main character in Mimi Cave's 2022 food-filled fright fest, Fresh, where a budding relationship takes a dark turn when its cannibalistic origins are revealed, sparking a life-or-death game of manipulation, survival, and screaming. I'm gonna cut your heart out! To start the film, we meet Noah, played by Daisy Edgar Jones, which, by the way, if you're watching this, I'm single. You're in horror movies, I'm into horror movies. Sounds like a perfect match to me. Anyway, Noah sits in her car, flipping through profiles on a dating app nobody's ever heard of before she gets a call from her friend just in time for the scheduled roast session of the date she's about to meet. After she finishes the call with the most obnoxious sound you could imagine,
Bye. 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 Bye.
Her date reveals himself as somehow even worse than expected.
The women in our parents' generation, they just cared more about how they dressed and just kind of like how they looked. They were more into femininity.
What a perfect way to introduce yourself. Take notes, gentlemen. After dinner, he tells her he'd like to go out again, but when Noah calmly says that she doesn't like him, his insecurity decides to make an appearance.
Good luck finding a guy, you stuck-up bitch.
Now that's how you bid someone farewell. A few days later, Noah finds herself grocery shopping and somehow discovers the origin of COVID-19 when she sees a man stick his finger into a drink and lick it. As she continues walking through this wonderland, unsure of what other eldritch horrors it may contain, she hears a mysterious voice.
Have you ever had these?
Before a man interrogates her about some grapes that taste like cotton candy.
They taste just like them, I'm not kidding.
He then holds the grapes in front of her face and asks her to try them, eating one himself, consuming food in the store just like the strange man. Very interesting. Realizing the effect of his charisma, he asks for her number and finally gives her his name, Steve. A bit later, we meet Noah's best friend, Molly, and as Noah explains what happened in the store, how perfect Steve seemed, Molly reveals some intuition, sensing something hidden within Steve.
He's probably married.
While this was mostly a joke, it could hint at an ability to recognize deception in other people. Later that day, Steve finally texts her and the two have their first date, dissecting deeply into Steve's career as a... Wait, what do you do again?
I work in reconstructive surgery.
You mean, plastic surgery?
Yep, that's the one.
Right.
Oh, okay, well, can either of you tell me what that entails?
Boob jobs.
Boob jobs, you got your butt lifts.
Implants. Facelifts.
Facelifts.
Yeah.
As the date moves on, after showing us more close-ups than a microbiology book, Noah gives us her cynical thoughts on relationships.
People who, believe in true love are
Fucking idiots.
Before kissing him, going back to her apartment, and then kissing him some more. For some reason though, he stops and says things are moving too fast.
I don't think I've ever heard a guy say that before.
You and me both. Sounds like something someone who's married but feels guilty about cheating would say. Well, whatever held him back apparently had very weak arms because he decides to change his mind 10 seconds later and the two of them start fucking. Steve then asks Noah to go on a trip with him and Noah accepts, further solidifying her placement on the scale of paranoia, initially cautious but can become trusting of people with a bit of time. When Noah tells Molly about the trip, Molly showcases some caution by pointing out how quickly things have moved and how she hasn't even seen Steve yet. Noah, however, ignores Molly's warnings and continues with the trip, even after he abruptly changes plans due to high traffic and asks her to come to his place for the night. On the way there, Noah notices that she can't send any messages on her phone, but Steve assures her that while the service around his house is poor, it will be much better once they arrive. However, when they finally get to his house, she still can't send any messages, and after she asks about the Wi-Fi, he tells her,
Fuck, must have gone out again.
Fortunately for Noah's ranking, however, she does seem to recognize the shadiness of this statement, but she also seems to lack the conviction necessary to take any protective action and instead continues as if everything is normal. Steve then hands her a drink and asks if she can taste any interesting flavors, denying each of her guesses.
Peach?
No. Close, very close.
Quite the slick way to get her to drink it without arousing suspicion. As she keeps trying to guess the flavors, she continues drinking and things begin to look and sound strange, almost as if she's been drugged. Steve then asks her to move closer to him, but as soon as she starts walking, she collapses on the rug and passes out. A bit later, she wakes up on the floor in another room with Steve giving us his best impression of a rich guy from the 1970s.
I drugged you.
At first, she thinks he's joking, until she realizes he's chained her to the wall, so she panics and starts hyperventilating. Steve then walks over and tells her the last thing a pig hears before it gets betrayed by a farmer.
I'm gonna sell your meat.
Back in the city, Molly sends a text to Noah's phone asking for an update on where she and Steve went. She quickly gets a response saying they went to Cottage Grove, along with a picture of a waterfall, seemingly resolving all of her concerns. However, the next day, Molly checks up on her again, but notices that Noah's text seems strange, so she reverse image searches the waterfall she received earlier and realizes that the picture came from a website rather than her camera. Now that's what I'm talking about! Some good observational skills and critical thinking. A move as intelligent as this shows an ability to recognize tendencies, which could certainly prove useful in body replication films like The Thing and puts Molly on the ultimate survivor watch. So look out. After a brief montage demonstrating Steve's skills in both dancing and cannibalism, oh look, a human leg! Noah asks Steve if she can take a shower, and luckily, Steve accepts. Dirty ass. As he escorts her around the house, she inconspicuously looks around to get a better sense of her surroundings, displaying some notable planning skills, but quickly tarnishes this positive performance when she prematurely attacks Steve and tries to escape. She should have either waited for a more vulnerable moment to strike, or she should have gone for a more crippling attack than a simple combo to a man much bigger than her. Due to such lack of conviction, Steve quickly overpowers her and knocks her unconscious. She then wakes up in what looks like an operating room, unable to move. After noticing that she's awoken, Steve tells her the last thing a farmer hears before a bandit steals his donkey.
I'm taking your ass.
Good thing he's a doctor. I'm sure he'll do a great job. I bet you won't even notice it's gone. Meanwhile, Molly dives deeper into her detective work and goes to the bar where Noah and Steve had their first date. There, she sees Paul, Molly's ex-boyfriend who had been their bartender that night, and asks him for more information on Steve. Despite him initially telling her that he can't give away his information, he eventually ends up doing so as a result of Molly's manipulation tactics, showcasing Molly's ability to take advantage of previous emotional connections to convince people to do things they wouldn't otherwise do. Soon after, Molly uses the information Paul gave her and ends up finding Steve's secret family. Who could have guessed he was married? Before confronting them though, she displays some great preparation skills and a strong sense of self-preservation when she sends Paul her location through text just in case things go awry. Now that's what I'm talking about. More characters should do this, though she probably should have developed some type of code so that Paul knew that she were the one texting him just in case someone takes her phone and starts impersonating her, just like she suspected Steve did to Noah. When she knocks on the door, a woman opens it and Molly tells her that Steve had been sleeping with Noah and that she thinks he may have done something to her. However, she may be showing far too much trust, putting herself in danger by believing that this woman doesn't already know what Steve has done and is actually a part of it. Very common in horror movies. This possibility only becomes more harmful when Steve walks into the house. Molly then tells Steve that Noah has gone missing, but Steve says his name is actually Brandon and denies knowing Noah at all.
You're Steve, right?
No, I'm Brandon.
You a damn lie. As Steve walks her towards the door, Molly calls Noah's phone and hears her ringtone, confirming that Steve has been lying and showcasing some notable intelligence from Molly. However, she should have instead called the police, because even though Steve had indeed kidnapped Noah, Molly didn't know whether Steve would still have her phone, or that it would have an audible ringtone, so it likely wouldn't have even been useful to call her. If she had instead called the police, she could have had her location confirmed and maybe would have prevented Steve's wife from hitting her on the back of her head with a brick. I told you she might be in on it. After packing Molly into his car like a collection of groceries, Steve somehow manages to become even more annoying by running across the city with confidence, coming back to his cannibal cabin, and eating some human jerky like potato chips. I hate this man so much. If this all sounds like something only an excited cannibal would do, you'd be correct, because Steve has decided to have dinner with Noah after she spontaneously asked him what people taste like.
What does it taste like?
Recognizing that Steve likes her more than his other victims, Noah has decided to try to subtly influence him to eventually get a chance to escape, showing some potential skill in manipulation. I can see why she and Molly are best friends. At dinner, Noah asks Steve why he started eating people, and he tells her the last thing a bandit says when an executioner asks him why he did it.
I liked it. I liked the way it made me feel.
Steve then slides a plate in front of Noah, who seems to show some knowledge of horror movies as well when she asks,
Is it me?
Completely reassured by the cannibal's answer,
No.
Noah takes a bite and gives some credence to cannibalism when the food causes her eyes to orgasm. Maybe people actually do taste good. Can you describe it for me, Noah?
It's indescribable.
Enthralled by Noah's charm, Steve invites her to dinner again, where they eat another one of Noah's fellow victims after eating the rest of Hope on their last date.
Oh no, there's more hope left.
Very funny. Feeling like she's starting to break through, she asks Steve to dance, then quickly takes things to the bedroom for some freaky time. There, she demonstrates some incredible resolve when she goes down on him and decides to facilitate his cannibalism by giving him some head with a bit too much teeth. She then smears toothpaste in his eyes, takes his keys, and runs out of the room, locking him inside. After somehow having completely healed from losing her ass, she goes back downstairs and sets Molly and Penny, one of the other prisoners, free. As they make their way for the exit, they run into Steve and for some reason don't go for the killing blow when they have the opportunity to do so. Luckily though, Molly hits him quite hard several times and knocks his ass out, showcasing some valuable fighting skills and tenacity. The three of them then run out of the house. Meanwhile, Paul arrives at the house after following Molly's phone location, but makes an incredibly self-serving decision when he quickly leaves after hearing a gunshot before he reaches the door.
Nah, fuck this shit.
This may seem cowardly, but unlike you and I, or at least me, he hasn't seen the movie. He has no idea what's going on. He doesn't even know if Molly or Noah is even there. But he does know that someone just fired a gun, so he takes the safest course of action and leaves. Good decision. Since none of the women took the opportunity to kill Steve, he managed to get back up and started searching for them, waving around a gun and spewing some pretty lame insults while doing so.
Stupid. Fucking weak. Pussy ass fucking bitches.
He probably should have focused more on listening instead of talking, because the three women jump out from behind the trees and beat the gun away from him. Noah then grabs it and decides to act like a middle school photographer.
Give me a smile.
Steve obliges and Noah shoots him in the face, showing some much needed conviction with this killing blow. The women then walk away and arrive at a barn that doesn't open. Noah realizes that she left her phone somewhere, so she decides to go back to Steve's body alone, leaving herself vulnerable to another wave of enemies. She should just start walking so she can get to a safe place instead of waiting around where Steve's supporters might arrive. Though she did lose her ass, so maybe she can't walk for long. It hasn't really seemed to bother her though. When she gets back to Steve's body, she finds her phone but ends up running into Steve's wife, who had arrived a few minutes earlier. Not realizing who she is, Steve's wife tackles Noah and starts choking her until Noah showcases some scrappiness and stabs her in the neck with some keys. She somehow gets back up though and attacks Noah again, but like a life-saving drug, Molly rushes in, whacks Steve's wife with a shovel, and destroys her head so thoroughly they'll need to line her casket with lead so nobody can look inside. Now that's how you make sure someone is dead. Go straight for the head. Alright, it's finally time to rank. Let's talk about Noah. Though she made quite a few mistakes, Noah actually performed pretty well in this film. She had strong observational skills and emotional intelligence, allowing her to recognize Steve's unique attraction to her and manipulate him. She also showed great resolve in her physical confrontations, acting as a personal vasectomy and stabbing Steve's wife in the neck with a handful of keys. She even managed to stomach eating people without insulting or making Steve uncomfortable, which I'd imagine was very difficult to do. Unfortunately though, she also showed a lack of patience at points, which squandered her already low chance of escape, and she took far too long to demonstrate killer instinct, which easily could have led to her death. All in all though, I'm placing her in B tier, with her strongest performances coming in gore horror movies and her weakest performances coming in psychological horror movies. Now let's talk about Molly. Molly has a lot going for her. Despite having relatively little screen time, she showcases a lot of awareness and emotional intelligence that allows her to navigate potentially dangerous situations. She also demonstrates an ability to judge the character of other people, though it's not perfect, as she doesn't realize the hostility of Steve's wife until it's too late. She also doesn't always make the best decisions when she finds herself in these threatening circumstances, opting to call Noah's phone instead of the cops when she thought Steve had kidnapped her, which erased any chances she may have still had of leaving his house unharmed. She had fairly strong preparation before entering the house, but could have placed higher if she had displayed even better planning. Still though, she also showed great resolve during her escape from Steve's captivity, managing to knock out both him and his wife on separate occasions, even while weakened. With all that said, I'm placing her in A tier, with her strongest performances coming in zombie movies and her weakest performances coming in supernatural horror movies. And finally, let's talk about Paul. Though Paul only appears for a few minutes, he still manages to land in the upper half of the scale by displaying pristine levels of self-preservation, avoiding conflict when he has the opportunity to do so. Rushing into danger without any familiarity of his surroundings or clarity on his enemies would have significantly raised his chances of dying, and he understood that, which is far more than I can say for many of the characters I've covered so far. He did, however, fall victim to Molly's manipulation at risk of his job, and unlike Molly or Noah, we didn't see him engage in anything especially challenging, so I'm less confident in his overall aptitude. However, the little that he does show fits best with B tier, so that's where I'll place him, with his strongest performances coming in haunted house horror movies and his weakest performances coming in post-apocalyptic horror movies. Now it's time to give out the awards. Well, one award and one whatever the opposite of an award is. First off, the Ultimate Survivor Award goes to the character most likely to survive a random horror movie, and I'm giving this to Molly. She may not have been perfect, and certainly could have better optimized her paranoia to avoid her capture, but she still showed some valuable preparation ability as well as some great mental and physical resolve throughout much of the climax of this film. Molly is the ultimate survivor. The First Kill award goes to the character least likely to survive a random horror movie, and I'm giving this to Noah. Though she certainly has faults, a lack of patience and conviction initially, she doesn't really deserve to be the first kill, but with so few available characters, she unfortunately finds herself here. I could have given this to Paul since he has way fewer positives than Noah, but he also has way more uncertainty, and that'd be too easy. So I'm sticking with Noah. Noah is the first kill. But that's it. The average ranking for this cast was B tier. Pretty good collection of characters. In a year filled with memorable horror movies like X, Barbarian, and Nope, Fresh may not stand out as the best, but it still manages to be a fun ride from start to finish, with a premise just perfect for Survivor scale. Thanks for watching.